Deconverted Man here, staying with the theme of broadcasting in weird times for this series. It is 6:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm still Deconverted Man. Anyways, so all of these videos that I've had about this guy, whose name escapes me for the moment. Ed's Christian channel. Ed. Good old Ed here, or as I like to call him, Following Christ! So I've decided all the videos about him belong in the playlist of Rebunked series. And the actual Rebunked thing, like, I don't know if I'll finish it or not, because he responded to my entire lengthy first video about him, and it feels like I should respond to that response. But on the other hand, it starts to get repetitive because I'm just saying like the same point over and over. It's just like he's wrong about the same thing many times. But I find this person to be endlessly interesting as a study of what to not do as apologetics. Like, if you really if you really were out to try to convince skeptics, atheists, that your version of God, among all the other 10,000s of gods that exist, exist, quote unquote, your God is the one that actually exists. Those other ones they're fake, right? So your goal is to convince people of that truth. And because you don't have any empirical evidence or repeatable tests for your version of God, along with all the other versions of gods that don't exist, you are constrained to philosophy and arguments. And because you are too lazy to learn informal logic yourself, you're just going to copy and paste what others have already done and hope that those arguments are good enough. Or you're going to wind up saying things that have been said already by other apologists, even though you think you're creating original content and you're not directly copying and pasting what somebody else has done. Nothing here is original. Nothing here is something we haven't seen before. But the interaction I've had with him in text has been very interesting in my view, in that this guy really does not want to actually deal with me live at all. And it seems he will make any and every excuse to avoid that as humanly possible. We'll get to the comment section after I cover his video as part of the Rebunked series. Yes, Yahweh exists, but every other god, it's a myth in human creation. Yeah, man, exactly, right, yeah. Vesta gets it. Of course, Vesta's there being sarcastic, saying that, but Yahweh exists, but sadly, it's the only one. All the other ones are fake. Okay. So, anyways, this tactic from apologists is very low rung as far as tactics that apologists can use on non-believers, but also other people of other beliefs. Hi, Mighty Filbert. Yeah, starting early. That's right. So, this is not a way to discover what is true in reality. So Vesta, and I'm probably saying his name wrong, but I say names wrong all the time. But Filbert, at least his name I can pronounce easily enough. So if I said, you believe X, or you think this, or you feel that, this is something that I would like to be codified into a logical fallacy. There are some that kind of cover it, but for the version I want is more specific. I call it the mind reading fallacy, or special knowledge. And I have two different names for it because, public needs to be able to decide which version they like better, mind reading or special knowledge, and then use that. So this fallacy occurs if and when someone says, or a group of somebody says, you feel, you believe, fill in the blank, or you don't feel, or you don't believe, fill in the blank. Now, there's no way we can, as humans, know what somebody is thinking or feeling, unless we took Herculean efforts to scan their brain. And even then, I'm not sure that our technology is good enough to really figure that out quite yet. Maybe one day we'll get there, but in a mundane sense, in an ordinary sense, we can maybe infer or guess what somebody is thinking or feeling or whatever, but we can't really know. And even if they tell us, we still don't know because they could be lying to us. They could even be lying to themselves. And so, then there comes the social contract where if I tell you I ate breakfast this morning, you don't really have any reason to doubt me, because it's such a silly thing to make up. I had nachos, by the way. I don't know if that counts as breakfast, but I had them from yesterday. And so I ate something, and it's near breakfast time, so I guess it's breakfast. It's good enough, right? But should I prove that I ate the nachos to you? I mean, I could show you the empty bowl, but then I could show you I have nachos. It's really a weird thing. If I wanted to prove that to somebody, I could show you eating the nachos, and then I'd have some proof that I did that thing. But we grant innocence until guilt is suggested. So if somebody tells you I ate breakfast, we go, okay, you ate breakfast, moving on, because who cares? But if that person says I ate breakfast with the president of the United States, now we're going to expect them to produce evidence, whereas before we'll let them slide. We don't need evidence for that, because it's a non-mundane claim, or as Sagan put it originally, it's an extraordinary claim. Therefore, it needs extraordinary evidence. Which really is just saying it needs more evidence than the mundane claim does. So it's not like it's different type of evidence. Just you need more. So maybe you would need to have a picture of me with the president to know that at least I know the guy, or I got a picture with him. So then the likelihood that I could have had breakfast with him then increases to some degree. But maybe that's not enough. You need, if I was known to work with him and associate in the politics, then maybe the likelihood that I did do that action is higher, and so on and so forth, right? So the bigger the claim, the bigger the evidence, or the more amount of evidence we would want. And a claim about what you feel, think, believe, or don't feel, think, and believe would be, I think, the highest bar of proof required. Because, yeah, I suppose we could sit down, Vesta, and we could connect some device to your head, and we could scan your, EMG, and we could run it through computers and AI, and we could figure out when you're telling the truth or a lie, or at least get close to that. And now they're doing things with trying to picture people's dreams and stuff like this, so we get that in there, and so we try to figure out what you're thinking. Do you feel that, we put you in a CAT scan, whatever it is, we do this elaborate thing that's going to cost a lot of money, time, energy to do on you, and plus you have to suffer through it, and all to try to figure out if you feel this feeling in association with this event, right? And let's just say that we did all that, right? And then we had the results. Then and the problem, and we had, of course, we've done it many times because we're good scientists and we want to make sure that our machines are running and that our outcome is decent enough, free of errors to some degree. And so we have a error margin of, whatever that is, 33%, and so we figured it out. Let's say we did. Let's say we perfected the technology to where we could put a thing on you and go boop, and we would know exactly what you were thinking and feeling in regards to whatever the situation was. We're not there yet, though. So when somebody claims that they can know what you think or feel, I think that is so illogical that it's not even possibly true. And if any book claims to know how you think or feel, it is not logically even possible. Now, of course, the theist here says, but I am not the one that knows. I am not the one that makes this claim. It is God that knows these things, because God can read your brain. God can read your mind. God knows you better than you know you. God knows how many hairs there are on your head. God knows X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, really? So does Santa Claus. This is really great, because we have another claim. In fact, we have several claims being made about God now. And we have the problem that we haven't shown that God is a thing at all. Aliens exist, and they can read your mind, has as much substantive force to it as that God can do it. But aliens at least could be real, whereas we don't know about God. The technology to read your brain remotely, well, now that's levels above what we could do. So, now you're talking advanced civilizations, which of course would be the aliens. So I can make a claim that aliens know what I think and feel. And not only that, but they can make predictive models based on that. And so they could now say this with 100% certainty, or with maybe 99% certainty, or whatever. And it's like, okay, and I wrote this whole book that says this, right? The problem is, I still didn't prove aliens. I just said that the aliens know that you feel sad, on Tuesday morning. And even if it happened to be the case that you felt sad on Tuesday morning, that doesn't prove that the aliens exist. So it's this sort of claim that just has this insanely high burden that you can't surmount. You cannot know what somebody thinks, feels, and believes, or doesn't think, feel, and believe. You can't know that. And you can claim that God knows that, but you have to then demonstrate that there is a God that then also has the ability to know those things. And without that, you just have the claims, which we can throw out because there's no logical underpinning there. All that. Yeah, it's exactly. They have a holy book that says a thing. Right, exactly. So, all that being said, to go into this video, hopefully I wasted more than enough time preparing you for this.
Hello, big welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you're returning. If you like my videos, then please like and subscribe.
Also, I have to comment on it. Okay, I don't have to comment on it, but I do. The last two videos, we could not hear him. So this is the first video I covered of his. There was no way to hear him. I had to read the transcript. When he sat down and recorded it, the next time he was really low and I had to crank the volume up. Now we can actually hear him. So at least he's getting better there.
So today's video is called "Your Heart Knows God Exists Even If Your Mind Denies It."
Okay, so this is that very claim that I was building us up for and telling us about. This is a special knowledge or mind reading claim. You are claiming that God knows X is true about me without demonstrating that God is a thing, and also that God has some way that allows it to know X thing about me. some technology or ability that allows. And by the way, the ability thing is harder to believe than technology, because I could certainly believe that somebody would have technology advanced enough to allow this, but you're talking about an innate ability, and you're saying that this is a natural creature rather than an artificial creature that somehow has evolved this ability. No. Well, God is, of course, just that. It just always has existed with all these abilities somehow, literally flying in the face of all logic and reason. But whatever. Anyways. Oh, also, to be extraordinarily nitpicky, because why not? The heart is an organ that pumps blood.
Interesting. Right. So, thank you for tuning in. Now, before you start thinking, wait a minute, a speech about God on a Friday, 2025? Who's even talking about this stuff still nowadays?
This isn't necessary for you to do. It really just diminishes your message. You don't need to draw attention to the fact that religion is slowly dying out. We all know that. And there are plenty of people that still talk about this. So it doesn't really help you. Next time, don't do that.
Well, relax. I'm not here to throw a bunch of religious jargon at you or try and guilt trip you into attending church this Sunday. Let's talk about something for a minute. Have you ever had one of those moments when you're staring at a sunset or hearing a beautiful song, or you're just watching someone do something selfless, and you get this weird, unexplainable feeling in your chest? It's like something deep inside that says, this is not random. This is too beautiful to be by accident.
Okay, so he asks a question here, and questions have presuppositions built into them, but also questions usually are to get the other person to answer the question. I say, hey, Mighty Filbert, how's it going today? And he's supposed to say, it's going okay, or it's going lousy, or whatever. I say, hey, Vesta, am I saying your name even close to right? And then Vesta will type in yes or no, or hamburger or something, because they're responding to my question. So I'm got to respond to this question he asked me. No, I don't feel that anymore. I probably had that sort of feeling when I was a believer, but not anymore that I'm a skeptic. So the answer is no, I don't have that feeling. Now, that's going to become important later on.
This is something divine. And maybe your mind says, oh, don't be silly. That's just chemistry, hormones, Earth's atmosphere, or whatever. Science, the explanation that you've heard recently. But I'm here to tell you that your heart knows God exists, even when your mind tries to deny it.
Okay, so he's a, hey, if you feel this feeling that's really vague and kind of undefined, but you feel this feeling of God, and even though you might have access to knowledge of chemicals and science, ignore that and go with the feeling. Screw the science, screw the actual natural explanation. Feel your way to the more feelings. Hey, you felt God. Maybe it's actually God. Yeah, okay, yeah. There's the psychology and the science and the facts and all that. Who cares about reality? You can just feel like it's real. And that's good enough, right?
Your mind's got all its theories and explanations, but your heart's been in on the secret from the start. It's like that one friend who always knows the truth when the rest of the group are debating it. So let's dive into what your heart already knows, something that your mind is sort of trying to catch up with. Point number one, the search for meaning.
Okay. All right. So, this is all that this is nothing but the fallacy that I would like to be coined. Now, this is other fallacies here. Basically, this would fall under probably straw man, but it's just it is asserting something as true without demonstrating it's true. It's saying that we have these feelings without demonstrating that we actually do. Your heart knows X. No, my heart pumps blood. You mean my mind believes X, when in fact, I am the one with the mind that knows if I do or don't believe this, and no, I don't believe this. So anybody can make any claim about your mind. I can say to following Christ that he knows deep down there is no God, but he doesn't want to accept that with his brain. Or rather, I could say it the other way around, could flip the script. His brain knows there's no God, but his heart doesn't want to accept that. Or really, his emotions don't want to accept that. So his intelligence knows there's no God, but his feelings don't want to admit that. And I can make that claim all day long, but it doesn't get us anywhere because I haven't shown that that's true. Even if I could show that it was true, by the way, it still doesn't tell us if there is or isn't a God. It just shows us how he feels and thinks. So even if he could demonstrate 100% that we all believed in God deep down, which he can't, that wouldn't make there being a God any more true than before, because how you feel about things doesn't alter reality. Reality is whatever it is, regardless of your feelings. Or as because he wants quotes from people. The great Ben Shapiro once said, facts don't care about your feelings.
All right. So let's start with the big one. Why are we here? Huge question, right? So what's the point of this whole life thing? If you've ever been in deep thought at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, asking those questions, congratulations, you're human. Some people get caught up in figuring out how the universe works, trying to prove things with science. Others dive into philosophy, psychology, or even that trusty search engine Google. But here's the thing. No matter how much your mind tries to categorize everything into nice, neat little boxes, there's something inside of you, a longing that can't be filled with mere answers.
Yeah, I love this. All those things you could learn about reality. Yeah, that's nice. But you're still going to want more. Oh, you're going to have this feeling, oh, it's never enough. So why bother then? Don't worry about learning all that stuff about reality. Who cares? Because you're still going to feel empty. Oh, isn't that horrible? You're going to have this feeling, this aching, this desire that can only be fulfilled by joining the lobsterist cult. That's right. Well, it's not even a cult. It's a religion. It's the only true religion. The lobsterist. Yes. The lobsterist belief system. You too can join in. And if you don't, then that feeling inside will always be there. Oh, isn't that terrible? Oh, man. You don't want that. So I'm playing on fear and emotion. I'm not actually giving you a logical reason to believe anything I'm saying. I'm giving you emotional manipulation. He's saying all that stuff that you can learn about reality is still not going to fill this void. You don't know that. There's no way that you could know that. In fact, I find knowing stuff about reality much more fulfilling than anything else because it's actually real. It's like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's really neat. Yesterday, I went to a escape room, and it was a lot of fun. And I'd already done it a long time ago, so I kind of remembered some of it ish, but not really. But then I did remember this one part where you just flip this ball into this hole, and then that's how you get that part done. And I was like, when I got it in, I was like, yeah, and I felt really good, tingly sensation in my head. I was like, oh, yeah, it felt so good, And then there was another puzzle that I solved all on my own, and I was like, there's these like little scarabs, and they were in this like the pattern. I'm like, ooh, if you did this, and like in my head, I picture moving the tile, tilting it, whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, then this is the pattern. Then I put the scarabs in, boom, the thing solved. I was like, it felt so good, yes. And that sensation, that feeling good sensation, can only happen in escape rooms. Nowhere else can you ever feel that high. Now, isn't that a ridiculous statement to make? I mean, certainly I felt it then, but to then conclude that that's the only location I could ever feel that way would be ridiculous, right? And that therefore, the only way that you can feel that sort of high is to go to an escape room and solve a puzzle. That would be a ridiculous claim to make, but that's basically the claim he's making. He's like, I've had this good feeling, even though he hasn't said that, but we can infer that he probably has. And if you have this feeling, you have this emptiness feeling, although here it's a negative feeling rather than a positive one, but it doesn't matter. He could have gone positive with it, but you have this emptiness feeling, and it can only be fulfilled with the thing that worked for me. Even though something else might work on you. But no. The thing that worked for me, that, it's like, look, I personally, deconverted man, suffer inflicted with, however you want to put it, with PTSD. And that sucked. It sucks. But I got EMDR treatment. Now, there's different types of EMDR, so the one I got might not be the one that somebody else gets. It worked for me. That's all I can say. There's a good bell curve that shows it works for the majority of people, but that doesn't mean it will work for everyone because it's a bell curve. It means the majority of people it will work for, but there's a certain percentage of people who it won't work for. And you might be one of the fortunate ones who it doesn't work for. And so we don't know until we try the therapy, and it doesn't cost you some money and time to do the therapy, but it's not, there's no drugs involved. So at least it's not going to hurt you. I don't think, taking the therapy if you didn't need it. But you're going to spend time and energy and money on doing so, and maybe it doesn't work. Well, okay. At least you now know one more thing that didn't work for you, and we can't say definitively this will always work because we know that's not true. We can only say it works X amount of time. But he doesn't have that sort of data to rely on. He doesn't have the sort of data that shows X amount of times this thing that will fill this void that he's talking about. And the thing that he thinks will fill the void is belief in God or connection to God or religion or whatever. Because again, now what's interesting is he being extraordinarily vague with what it is that's going to fill this gap that you apparently have. But he doesn't have that massive research like we do for EMDR. He doesn't have any research, as far as I can tell, that indicates that, yes, if you go into this thing, it will fill this void that you supposedly have. And in fact, it will fill it better than anything else would. And in fact, we have a study that shows that the majority of people feel more fulfilled in this than they do not, or whatever. Where's all the studies for that? You don't have that. I know he doesn't have that. I know because he doesn't cite any of that. There's no citations for those studies. Now, even if he did, of course, have those studies, then you would show at least that if you believe X, it will fill in this void Z. I don't know, but I can't claim that you have void Z, and I could only claim that X would fill it in the majority of cases, and it still doesn't prove that X is true, only that X is useful. But he doesn't have any of that.
And guess what? That's your heart trying to tell you there's more to life than what you can see or measure. That's something beyond the material world. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11 states, He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to the end. So what's that saying? Your heart has eternity built into it. a sense that there's something greater out there. And no matter how much your mind tries to dismiss it, your heart knows. It's like when you try.
Okay, so we have again this claim that my heart, which he means feelings, my emotions, knows something. Your emotions do not perform the function of knowledge. That is your intellect, that is your memory, that is your, well, the emotions are just that. They don't think things in that way. So this is a complete and utter category error if we're talking pure psychology, which of course at this point we are. We're also noting that the logical fallacy here is appeal to emotion, because that's all he's doing is appealing to our emotions and saying, well, you feel this gap, you feel this longing for eternity. But he also layers in there statements about reality that aren't true. Your heart knows there's an eternity or whatever. My emotions know this? No, they don't know anything. And if I'm trying to steal, man, I'm guessing you mean that I feel like there's more than me. Well, kind of, maybe, but it depends what you mean by more than me. I mean, I know that there's a universe that's pretty damn big, so that's pretty cool. That is kind of awe-inspiring, and and I can be like, wow, look at just how big it is. Like, wow, that's amazing. And so the fact of reality is enough without adding God to it. I believe Douglas Adams said that the garden is good enough without having to pretend that fairies are there taking care of it. If you're wondering why I'm citing different people's quotes, we'll get to the comments and you'll see why. What blasphemy is this? I haven't blasphemed yet, actually. Let me attempt to rectify that. Jesus had sex with the Holy Spirit. Pretty sure that's pretty good blasphemy there.
To deny the fact that you ate the last slice of pizza, but you can't ignore the greasy evidence. Your heart feels the divine presence, even if your mind's out there trying to rationalize it all away.
Well, the pizza actually is something we can point to that we know exists, and also the grease. But you're talking about feelings doing something that they cannot do, and you're also talking about knowing something that you cannot know. So there is no connection, and your analogy fails.
Point number 2, the inner longing. Let's talk about that gnawing feeling we all get sometimes, the sense that.
Now we get it sometimes, but not all the time. Well, why wouldn't we have it all the time? And why is it just a sense or a feeling, an emotion, rather than knowledge? Why is it that I can't just look next to me and see God right there, walking next to me all the time? There's that beach poem we've all seen and read at one point. Looked at the beach and there was 2 sets of footprints, then there was 1, then there was 2 again, and I was like, oh, that was the hard times of my life. Where were you, Jesus? I was carrying you. No, that's when you were riding on my back. But whatever. But why isn't it just like God is visible at all times, so that I don't have to rely on feelings at all? I can just go, oh, hey, how's it going, God? And I can know that it's there and talk to it and interact with it, and it would interact back. Why does it have to be these feelings?
Something is missing. You can have all the success, all the money, friends, Instagram followers in the world, but there's still this tiny hole, this yearning that no amount of distractions can fill.
I mean, that's your claim. This is the C.S. Lewis, the Jesus-sized hole, and but you could say this of any religion or cult for that matter, or any system. If you join our political party, you'll now feel complete. If you have sex with this person, you'll now feel complete. Don't you want to feel complete? And here's the problem. Let's say that they actually do the thing and they still don't feel complete. That's a problem, isn't it? It falsifies this idea in full. So I used to have this feeling, but here's the interesting thing. You can have that feeling even as a Christian, which shouldn't be possible if you already have Christ in you. You should never feel like you need to fulfill yourself in some way, shape, or form. But you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't know that this was a thing at all. So, how does that work? What's the explanation for that? Well, maybe you need more Jesus in you. It's a you feel X and you need Z to fill this feeling. Actually, though, the fact of the matter is, I don't feel the feeling that you're talking about. I am content with things, for the most part. There's things I would want and enjoy or whatever, but okay, I can work on getting those. It's like you think that there's this existential crisis that every now and again we feel, but that's not necessarily the case for every person. It isn't for me. And you also think that you know better than I do on what would fill that feeling up, but you don't and you can't.
You know the drill. You buy the clothes, you go on vacation, you scroll endlessly through social media, and yet there's that feeling that something's still off. And guess what? That's your heart reminding you that only God can fill that emptiness.
Okay, so again, that's your feelings reminding you that this thing that you have not verified exists. How do you know that? Maybe you just feel bored. Maybe you just need to do something else. Maybe you need to masturbate. I don't know. That can feel pretty good for a while until you're done, and then the shame begins. No, you shouldn't be. If you are, by the way, if you do feel shame after doing that, then there probably is an addictive behavior associated with that. So you might want to get some therapy to deal with that. And being religious actually can make you feel ashamed of doing that too. So there's a problem there, right? But at any rate, this is not, again, it's the same thing he already said already, where it's just like you have this hole and only this thing can fill it. Well, which God? Which of the 10,000 gods? And why can't lobsters do it? Because there's the lobster original deity. Can that fill this void? How do you know it can't? Also, I have my video called The Challenge, which he still hasn't done. In fact, nobody's done the challenge yet. But if you did the challenge, you could wish for your void to be filled, and it would be filled because you can wish for anything if you do the challenge, and the wish will be granted. So just do that. Why not? Why haven't you tried it?
Psalms chapter 42, verse 1 says,
Don't care.
As the deer pants for streams of water, so my heart pants for you, my God. Your soul is thirsty for God, and trust me, your mind can't fill that thirst with facts, only the Creator can. So next
I say blot over all that, because I don't care what your book says.
Time you catch yourself in a moment of emptiness, that's not just a sign that you need more pizza or a new Netflix series.
It could be.
That's your heart saying, hey, I'm made for something more than this.
Or it might just be heartburn or indigestion. Maybe you're lonely. Maybe you maybe you just need a friend. Maybe you need to go do something. I don't know. Could be anything. You're assuming that you know what it is that's missing. But you don't know that. And even once you get God in your life, you still feel this feeling of missing something. So that falsifies this idea that God will fill that void, because even as a believer, you can feel that way. So it's like, well, you just need more God. Just need more God. It's like, well, how much do you need until you feel fulfilled? And then one guy mentioned you could take drugs. I'm not in favor of drugs, but yeah, I mean, you could do just about anything to feel feelings. You could go to a concert and feel some great feelings there, or you could just go on a drive, you know, just go, I mean, it has to be God though. It can't be anything else. Okay, yeah. Be nice if you proved any of this.
Point number 3, the beauty of creation.
Okay, there he assumes creation by saying creation.
Okay, let's talk about sunsets or the sound of the ocean.
No, let's talk about cockroaches and maggots and parasites, because I want to focus on the ugliness of non-creation.
The starry night that makes you feel so small.
When you look at a cockroach, don't you feel like, ugh. When you look at a maggot, you feel like throwing up, And when you look at parasites, burying their thing in the ant one, it burrows its thing into the head of the ant. Oh my God. It just makes you sick, right? Doesn't that mean something that you feel that sickness when you look at these ugly things, or look at some feces, on the that's in the toilet, that hasn't been flushed by somebody, even your own. Oh, that's gross, right? Oh, that's disgusting. Doesn't that mean something that you feel repelled by it? Well, then that must be evidence that there is a mighty, intangible, invisible, unprovable, great beyond, where there exists the almighty yuck monster that is in charge of making you feel yucky. And you're just looking for the greatest yuck monster to fill your yuck quotient so that you'll be filled of that yuck feeling, so that you never have to again feel yuck, because you will have had the greatest yuck of all time.
Yet so incredibly alive. When was the last time you saw something in nature that just made you pause and say, wow, this is beyond me. This is big.
Let's see. At least 14 years ago, maybe more.
Than what I can understand.
Like I said, maybe 14, 15 years ago that I'd have that sort of feeling. But if there's something I feel like I can't understand, I'll look into it so I can understand it. And usually some human has figured it out. Not always. There's mysteries, and that's cool. I like mystery. It's like, that's cool,
Your mind might explain it scientifically.
Yeah, forget science. Yeah, sure, you could explain it with science, but who wants to do that? We can focus on feelings.
Just the way the Earth's atmosphere reflects light, causing colors to shift, or it's just the Earth's rotation in space. But your heart looks at the beauty of creation and says, "This can't be an accident. There's purpose here."
No, my heart does not do that. My feelings do not do that. And the conclusion I draw from the nicety of nature, also the savageness of nature and the ugliness that nature can provide, is that this is the result of biological evolution, which isn't just chance. You theist types always leave out that there's a filtering mechanism there, because you have to misrepresent evolution, because you can't make an argument unless you that at all for your creation stuff without saying it's just chance. Yeah, no, it's not just chance, because there's a filtering mechanism. But if you want to say it's just chance, okay, yeah, it's just chance. And it was chance that you were born. There was a million other sperms that it could have been. It happened to be you. You got lucky. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, it's cool that we exist, but it could have been somebody else that existed rather than me. I got lucky. My sperm that made me was faster than the other sperms that didn't make me, or something. I don't know. But that doesn't mean God. It doesn't point to God. It doesn't indicate God. It's just like, wow, things are pretty. That's neat. And then I don't feel this God feeling that you keep talking about. So you're just wrong.
Psalms chapter 19, verse 1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God."
Yeah. The Bible says a thing. Whatever. Don't care.
It's just saying, it's just physics, right?
Yeah, it is just physics. I know. Reality is the way it is. It's just physics. Yes, it is just physics. I know you feel like it's more. You want it to be more. You believe that it's more. But yes, it is just physics in action. Everything is physics in action. If you get down, in fact, everything is if you go down to the quantum world, everything is fluctuations of possible energy moving around. So, uh, that's kind of neat, and that's what it is. But it can't just be that; it has to be more because I feel like it. So you're saying basically ignore all the facts, just feel feelings. Okay, got it.
Here's the kicker. You could be the most scientific person, most logical person on the planet. But when you see that sunrise, when you hear the song that moves you to tears, there's something deep inside you that knows there's a creator behind all of this.
No. When I see the sunrise, I say that's cool. That's a result of the Earth's rotation and orbit around the sun, and it's nice. But that's it. There is no creator there to thank for that I'm aware of, and there's no argument here for me to conclude that there is a creator. This argument is nothing but an appeal to emotion over and over again. Emotions that you don't know that I have, can't know that I have, and in fact I don't have. But you keep insisting that I do have them, meaning that you're wrong. So your whole thing is a non-starter to begin with. As far as the music, well, yeah, somebody made the music. So sure, if there's a song that I really like. I don't know that I've been moved to tears. There's a couple of songs that get me pretty emotional, but to that degree, I'm not sure about. But that just means, yeah, I'm really grateful for the artist involved. There's somebody to thank there. The creator of the universe had nothing to do with that song. It was everything to do with the talents of the artist that made it, if there is indeed a creator of the universe. Unless you want to say that the creator of the universe made a song, which would be cool. Has God ever sang to us?
Your heart feels it. Even your mind can't always explain it.
No. Again, my emotions do not feel this, and yes, my mind can indeed explain it. But even if it was the case that I couldn't explain it, that doesn't make it true.
Point number 4, the feeling of connection. Let's talk about relationships for a second. Ever met someone and instantly felt that connection, like you knew them before you ever even met them?
Yeah, that's due to all sorts of psychological reasons.
You might chalk it up as chemistry or fate, or maybe you're just vibing with them. But deep down, something in your heart says, this isn't a coincidence. This is.
Yeah, and that's all wrong, by the way. It is just a coincidence. The reason that you're feeling those feelings towards that person are completely psychological in nature and have nothing to do with some sort of meant to be fate, destiny bullshit. That's just all pseudoscience nonsense, new age crap.
Divine. In 1 John chapter 4, 7 to 8.
Bible says a thing, don't care.
Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God
Whatever.
is love.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, this reminds me of Heather's argument for the goddess Venus. I haven't seen Heather in a long time. I kind of miss her in a way. Maybe I should give her a call and have her give the argument for goddess Venus's existence. But no, I don't feel like it right now. But I'll tell you it. It's the goddess Venus's love. Love exists, therefore the goddess Venus exists. That's her argument that the goddess Venus is real. So, okay, love is real, but that doesn't mean that the goddess Venus is love. See, this is the problem. He has no justification for anything he is saying. No facts, no data, no evidence, no argument, no anything. This is nothing but I feel a thing.
There's a reason we crave connection. It's not just because we're social creatures, even though.
No, that's the only reason why we crave connection is that we're social creatures. There's nothing deeper than that.
We are. It's because at our core, we are made to reflect God's love. When you feel love, whether from a friend, a family member, or even a random act of kindness, your heart is connecting with the divine.
No, it's
That's not just some random feeling. That's God's love showing up in your life.
Well, whether it's a random feeling or not, who knows? But this would all need proof. You would need to prove that this is connected to God in any way, shape, or form. The surface level of what it is enough to explain it. We crave connection because we are social creatures. End of story. Nothing more to it than that. Nothing less either. There doesn't have to be magic there to make it more magical feeling. Falling in love is a great feeling and can lead to a tragic feeling if that isn't returned. And you can fool yourself into falling in love with people that aren't really even real. And if you want to read something about that, it's on my blog. Time to promote my blog. Why? Because it's just time, because I wanted to promote. I don't get money from my blog. I just want to talk about my blog. I have a blog. It's called Logical Lobster. Well, it's lobsterlogic.blogspot.com. And somewhere on there, if you do a search, you can type in Naka, Naka, and you can read the story of Naka. Thanks, Naka, for telling me and explaining to me in a way that I now understand very fully why you should be very careful of who you love, especially on the internet. Anyways, what was I saying? All right, this guy's wrong.
And if you've ever had the deep connection with someone and thought, this is different, that's not just your mind's desire for companionship. That's your heart recognizing that at its core, we were created to love and be loved by God.
I love how you just add this and say, oh, the feeling that you normally feel that's very normal is actually proof of this thing that you can't prove. That's cool. Couldn't anybody make that claim? The feeling that you have when you stub your toe is proof that the lobster original deity exists. Actually, it's proof that when you remember that cockroach thing I mentioned earlier. Let's talk about that again, shall we? I'm not going to display any pictures of cockroaches because they will ick me out too. So I will just talk about them. They are gross to me, and I would dare say most people. So that proves that there's a giant gross thing that exists that is a gross god. It is the god of grossness. If there's a god of love, why can't there be a god of grossness? Or a god of hate? Or envy? Or a god of, I need to go to the bathroom really badly. That feeling you have when you need to go real bad, but you're holding it in. And it kind of feels kind of good in a way, but also feels bad. It's like, I'm right in that edge. It's starting to turtle. I got him. Oh, man, I better make it to the bathroom. And then afterwards, it's like, and you're like, there's a god of shit. Yeah, holy shit, actually. And there's actually, it's a trinity. It's 1, 2, and so it's the P God, it's the God of poo, and it's the God of that moment you have when you're done peeing and or pooing. Isn't it weird? I guess somebody can do this, but you can't pee and poo at the same time. It's one or the other. Isn't that weird? I don't know. Maybe you can. I can't. I just think that's weird. What the hell am I talking about? Why am I talking about this? Oh, I'm trying to prove that the assertion that normal feeling then proves this other thing that can't be proven is not a logical argument. So, yes, you feel like you need to poo doesn't prove that there's a poop god that exists.
Point number 5, the ultimate truth. So here's the thing. You might spend your whole life trying to ignore it, but deep down, your heart knows the truth. And that truth is that God exists.
You can go your whole life trying to believe it, but your mind knows deep down God does not exist. Same thing. I can do the same thing right back at you, and it holds no substantive quality to it. There is no argument being made. It is an assertion without any underlying proof. In fact, Penn Jillette once said, it's bullshit.
Maybe your mind is still working through all the evidence, asking questions, looking for answers, but your heart knows. In Romans,
your emotions feel that it's true, therefore it's true. Well, but my emotions don't feel that. So then therefore it must not be true. Right?
1, chapter 19 to 20, Paul says,
Don't care. Don't care. Don't care.
For since the creation of the world have been clearly seen.
Oh yeah, the whole God's invisible qualities have been seen because you can be seen while invisible. That makes perfect sense.
Excuse. You see, your heart has been in on this divine truth since day one.
Nope.
God's fingerprints are all over this world.
Nope.
No amount of intellectual debate can remove that feeling that you get when you experience something beyond yourself.
But I don't have that feeling. And if you're saying that no amount of evidence can override a feeling, that's a huge problem. You're saying that you prefer the feeling over reality because evidence is linked to reality. So if there's evidence to show that my feeling is incorrect, then my feeling is fucking incorrect. All right, enough of him. Let's go to the comment because he's just going to say more of the same, right? He's not going to say anything else.
Has been telling you.
Yeah, he's just repeating himself at this point. Okay. All right. So let me read what I wrote, and then I'll read what he wrote, and then I'll comment on what he wrote because it's great. I love it. All right. First I said, oh my word, I can hear you. Then he said, the statement is false. First, my heart pumps blood. If you mean my brain, nope, I do not know what you claim I do. I do not have the belief. And I'm willing to do a test to show if you paid for said test. 109, nope, don't have that feeling. 122, nope. You know there is no God deep down in your heart. I can also make this non-claim. Search for meaning. It's overrated. My meaning is whatever I make it to be. That's it. It's not proof of God. No, that feeling you suggest isn't present in my brain. I guess I just have to keep saying that if all you're going to do is repeat the assertion. You know there is no God. Your heart knows there is no God times 9,001. What? 9,000? No inner longing. Nope, I don't have that. Okay, so this is just a big ball of nothing. Why haven't you learned informal logic yet? Now, I ask you, friends and family, and coworkers and robots out there that are listening to me now, that are engaging in chat, in the chat universe. Captive Desk says hi to people, and there he is saying hi to people. See, there's people in chat. There's all sorts of people in the chat. So I would like to ask all of you now, let's say that somebody wrote that comment on a video of yours. How would you respond to that comment? Would you say, perhaps, in the reference to the last part, that it is a loaded question? You might object to it because I am suggesting that you haven't learned informal logic with that question, and that might not be a fair judgment on my part. You might say, hey, look, I'm going to object to that loaded question. How do you know that I haven't learned informal logic yet? You could have phrased that better, Deconverted Man. To it, I would say, you're right. I withdraw that statement or that question, and I'll rearrange it so that it's not loaded. I'll say, have you learned informal logic yet? And then you'll say yes or no. But of course, you could only really make that objection if you actually learned some informal logic. So, but now I just gave it away. But what about the rest of what I said? That I don't have this feeling at all. I've simply said, no, you're wrong. You could say, okay, I thought that you did have that feeling. I guess I was wrong. I apologize. You could say, I'm skeptical. I think that you do have that feeling. To what I would say, do you have any proof of that? And but then again, none of you would make this video. But so we're putting ourselves in we're trying to see what answer we would give, right? But I think it's fair to assume, and I don't, I know that makes an ass out of you and me, which I never really understood that statement. And this isn't really, it's like, no, it just makes an ass out of me. How does assuming make an ass out of anyone? Anyways, I would think that most of you would attempt to address what I had written, right? I would hope, right? I mean, just like with this video, I hope that you, when it's a video and I'm done making the live stream, that you post a comment on it about the video, about the live stream, about what we talked about here, what I talked about here, what you thought about what I said, and what you thought about what he said, and put some comments down there, because it helps the algorithm care about me, and then I might gain some subs out of that, and that shows that you care about what I'm doing. I appreciate your chats, but YouTube doesn't count that. And so anyways, but I think you would all respond to the comment, right? Well, he does respond to the comment, but he doesn't respond to the comment. Here we go. Hey, bro. Why? Thank you for your numerous, almost daily messages and videos, lols. You're welcome. With respect, I'd be more inclined to engage, with your message and videos if it weren't for your 53-minute rebuttal video where you didn't reference one theologian, scholar, or scientist. What? You only mentioned one fallacy for me to research and a plug of your book on morality, which I'd have to buy, wait for it to be shipped to Australia, and then I'd have to spend a couple weeks reading it. Hold on, let me pause this for a moment. I know Captive Desk is in here. Hey, Captive Desk, how long did it take you to read my book on morals? Let me know in the chat there so I can put that on the screen. All right. With respect, it's by far the worst and most amateur rebuttal video I've ever seen. I don't know if you were being lazy or you just don't know how they are done, but I am shocked at the standard of it. I'm not saying that to have a dig or anything. Bullshit you are. I have to critique people every week in forums for my course. What course? Yeah, for a course? And they critique me. I critiqued you, and you failed on every single level you could fail. And I can see you haven't done any real study, just parroting ideas. No, that's what you're doing. I mean, these are my ideas. I'm not copying apologetic arguments, so that's a you problem. I appreciate your passion for atheism. You mean for logic and reason? Because there's no passion for atheism. That doesn't make any damn sense. But with respect, I don't think I can learn anything off of engaging with your comments. Well, that's a you problem because you don't want to learn. Okay, got it. Also because you're emotionally driven bias. My emotionally driven bias. Yes, unlike his emotionally driven bias that was all throughout his video. His entire video is nothing but emotion. But my emotional bias, well, yeah, 2 sittings to read through and record it. Yeah. So, I mean, not that long. It was like, what, couple hours or so? You know, give or take. Yeah. Didn't take them that long. Which negatively influences your reason. No, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Anyways, I'm praying for you, mate. Ugh, whatever. Blah, blah, don't care. So then, you know, I explained to him why referencing anybody doesn't matter. And then, you know, I just kind of whatever to the rest of it, because who cares? It's an ad hominem. It doesn't address anything I said, and he doesn't want to learn. He doesn't want to engage. He wants to believe. That's apparently clear. This is why he has avoided debating me and or talking to me, and I've challenged him to do both. He's not going to, and since we're making up what people feel, think, and believe, I'm going to think that you, sir, are a coward. Bok, 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 bok. There you go. All right, since you can tell me what I feel, I can tell you what you are. Or maybe we can stick to logic and reason, but you don't use those in your videos. All right. Anyway, that's all for today. He still has nothing but bad logic, and maybe I'll get around to analyzing more of his rebuttal to my video and telling him how wrong he is, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. But it will be an edited video, so it'll take me more time to do, and I don't know if I want to do it, but I might. I don't know. Anyway, all right, that's it. That's all I got. Until next time, post a comment on my video, and you know, be skeptical and learn informal logic. Or if you've already learned it, you know, brush up on it, or maybe ask me questions about it. You know, keep me on my toes always. I appreciate you doing so. I rely on people to tell me that I'm wrong. I rely on people to tell me what I got wrong and in what detail. And the live videos are lower effort than the recorded videos are. And, you know, I try to be more entertaining with them, you know, but I also try to give us something to think about. I like to bring it back to us, the skeptic, to the atheist, to the whatever your label is, and ask you questions, ask myself questions that are difficult to grasp or deal with. So today's deep, meaningful question will be, why is it that sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes it feels good to hold in the poo, but other times you don't feel good holding it in? I'm just wondering, does that mean that there is, in fact, a god of poop out there? Let me know in the comments below. And that was a weird way to end the video, but that's how I'm going to do it. Yep.